Hello, my elegant warriors. Welcome back to the How to Advocate season of the Elegant Warrior podcast. And today we're talking about something a little bit different. We're talking about being complacent. I think that word is so interesting because I was talking to one of my corporate clients and they were bringing me in to speak to their leaders. And they were saying that one of the things that they are dealing with is complacency. Everyone's complacent. And the leader that I was speaking to was saying it as if it was such a negative thing, which it is, and it is to me too. And yet, when I came to do this podcast, you know how I am about words. I like to know the meanings of words and the roots of words so that I can really make sure that the word is saying what I want it to say. And the word complacent means comfortable. And we don't always think of comfortable as a bad thing, but there are times when comfort can be a problem. And an example of that is when we become complacent. Another word that is often a synonym for complacent is smug. And that word is definitely has negative connotations. But I feel like complacent is the type of comfort where you don't move, you don't grow, you don't act. And whether it's we individuals leading our own lives, or if we are talking to leaders of organizations, we want our lives, ourselves, and our organizations, our businesses, our teams to grow. You know, if you're not growing, you're dying, whether it's you as an individual or you as an organization. And so complacency is sort of the idea that we are just stagnating, not growing, not going beyond our comfort zones. And that can be a huge problem. It can be a huge problem in our personal lives, and it can be a huge problem if we lead people or if we're in sales. Really, no matter what it is that we do professionally, if we become complacent, we stop growing, we stop providing value, and we stop receiving back the money that you might get from providing value. If you are complacent, you are not engaged in what you're doing. You are not necessarily going to try to align with the others and collaborate and be creative and be innovative by any stretch of the imagination. You are not investing in yourself or your business or your teammates or your future. And you really aren't therefore achieving your highest potential. So complacency can be a problem. When we talk about investing, it's really getting skin in the game. And when you're comfortable and you're complacent, you are less likely to put some skin in the game, to grow, to take risks, to do new things. A perfect example is my Self Advocacy School. So the difference between engaging with something and investing in something is the difference between being comfortable and stepping outside of your comfort zone. When you are engaging with my work, whether it's by reading my books or listening to the podcast, you are starting to engage. But you only start investing when you start doing the work, when you start practicing. For some of you, you have joined the Self Advocacy School where we really get into the work, and you've invested both some of your money, $97 a month, but also your time to come to the live calls, to review all the private podcasts that are in there, to do some of the worksheets, really investing versus engaging. Engaging is the first step, and then investing is putting even more skin in the game, whether it's your money or your time or your emotions or your resources. And the same thing is true at work. You can engage at work. You can pay attention. You can go to meetings. You can chat with your leaders. But when you're really investing, you are putting in that extra time. You are thinking about when you're driving the car. You're talking to your mentors in a different way. The difference, as described in some of the literature that I read, is that engaging is getting involved, whereas investing is getting involved emotionally. And that's really getting beyond complacency to investing and growing and opposite of stagnating and actually doing something. And I think that what it really comes down to, the difference between not doing anything to then engaging and then to investing, if we look at those on sort of a timeline or a straight line, is that a continuum is the word I'm looking for, is that when we are doing nothing or just kind of entertaining ourselves, that's one end of the continuum. Engaging is sort of the middle of the continuum, and then investing is the far end of the continuum. And they all go with the further that you believe. If you are just getting entertained by someone's content or going to work and just sort of doing your thing, you don't believe that it's worth it. You don't believe that you're going to get a return on the investment of your time or your money or your education or your resources. You don't believe that people are going to pay you for what you do, or that if we're talking personally, you don't believe that working out, getting up early, journaling, meditating, eating well, giving up alcohol, that any of those things are worth it. And then as you engage, you start to believe. And then when you're invested, you really believe. Before you invest your time, your energy, your money, your emotion, you have got to be in belief. And so the goal for us personally and professionally is to be more invested, to step away from complacency and the comfort zone, and to step outside of that comfort zone takes an investment. And so I was thinking a lot about complacency in preparing for this corporate engagement that I have. And I think that the cure for complacency is belief. If you believe that it is worth it to get uncomfortable, you are much more likely to get uncomfortable. And so today I want to talk to you about what I see as the cure, and I put that in quotes, the cure for complacency, because it is contagious belief, it is unapologetic belief, it is reasoned belief, and it is empathetic belief. And I want to talk you through those four types of belief, because if you as an individual or you as a leader can get yourself or the people you lead, whether it's you or others, to have that contagious belief, the unapologetic belief, the reasoned belief, and the empathetic belief. And if you show that to the people that you lead, you are bound to step out of complacency and into investment and ultimately into growth and achieving and getting closer to your highest potential. So, what do I mean by contagious belief? So, when I teach people to advocate, advocating is building belief. This is what we do. And when I teach people to advocate, to build belief, it is with the three E's. It is with energy, evidence, and empathy. And contagious belief is all about your energy. What is the energy with which you are approaching yourself or others to build their belief? It's easier to talk about when we talk about others, when we talk about contagious, but you can catch belief from yourself. You can catch energy from yourself. If I wake up in the morning, and today's a perfect example, I woke up out of sorts. It was almost like I got up on the wrong side of the bed. I didn't sleep well, but I don't think that's why. I just woke up in a bad mood. And I could catch that from myself. I could allow myself to sort of go down the rabbit hole of everything stinks. It's not worth it. Why do a podcast? I'm not going to be in the right energy. Everything is terrible. And that easily could happen for me. And I could allow the feeling with which I woke up this morning to become contagious to the future me. Or I could try to create the circumstances that I could have a new emotion, a new feeling, a new belief, and then allow that to be contagious. So I did a meditation. I did some breath work. I did some reading. I took the dog for a walk. And all of those things allowed me to sort of establish a new belief that could become contagious. And then I got to the point where my energy was such that I felt like it was good enough for you, because I don't ever want to come to the podcast or the YouTube channel and be in a negative down energy, because that is not compelling and that is not going to get you to invest your time, your money, your resources, your emotions in what I'm having to offer. So contagious energy with yourself is a little bit harder. With others, contagious energy is everything. I am doing a live class on how to be the strongest energy in the room in February. The link to sign up for that class is in the show notes. That live class is all about your energy, and I'm going to give you ways to improve your own energy, to make it, and it doesn't mean improve it like to be all hyper and enthusiastic all the time, but it means to be the strongest energy, to be in control of your energy, to invest the time that it takes to raise your energy vibration, even if it is a calm energy or an I've got this energy, or yes, an enthusiastic energy or a joyful energy or a credible energy. There's so many different types of energy that you can have, but you want your energy to be so strong that others can't shake it. And that is contagious. That is contagious belief. When you have contagious belief, your energy is so strong that it's not impacted by others' doubt, by others' bad moods, by others' anger, by others freaking out. You are a strong energy, and it's so strong that it becomes contagious. And that's all founded in your belief. So the first thing, especially as a leader, that you want is to have a contagious belief so that the people around you catch your belief rather than you catching theirs. The next thing is unapologetic. You know, So many people apologize for their beliefs. They almost feel as though people are going to doubt them, so they can't be as enthusiastic or as committed or as sure as they truly are. So instead of saying, for example, I believe that my organization is going to reach 10 figures in revenue by the end of 2025 and feeling completely unapologetic with that belief, some leaders will say, well, we're going to try to get there, but we're not sure, almost as if they have to apologize in advance in case they don't make it. I want you as leaders and leading yourself to be unapologetic in the things that you believe and the things that you want to believe. If you want to believe that it's possible that you can run a marathon, I want you to be unapologetic in that belief. If you believe that it's possible that your team can become aligned behind a change that you want to make at the office in your business, I want you to be unapologetic with that belief. If we start to apologize, we start to get defensive. And with defensiveness, we are looking for attack rather than stepping up strong in our unapologetic belief. It's interesting because the C of the cure for complacency, contagious belief, that's all energy. When we get to the U, unapologetic, that's some energy and some evidence. The best way to be unapologetic about your belief is to collect and create evidence that supports that belief, because then you don't feel like you need to apologize or half butt it or ride the fence or be defensive. And so you want to be both contagious, so the people around you catch your belief, and you want to be unapologetic. You want to be all in without a lot of doubt, without a lot of going back and forth, making a decision and moving forward to support that belief. The next thing, the R of the cure for complacency, is you want to be reasoned. Now, that does not mean reasonable. There is a slight but important difference between those two words. Reasonable, one of the definitions is not outrageous. That is not what we want to embrace here. If you have an outrageous belief, that is fine. It is actually very powerful a lot of times as a leader or when you're leading yourself to have an outrageous belief, but you want it to be reasoned. You want to be able to establish proof for that belief. So it can be as outrageous as you want it to be, as long as slowly, piece by piece, bit by bit, you are collecting and creating evidence to support that belief. The R of the cure for complacency, is all about evidence. And we talked about that in past episodes of the podcast. We will continue to talk about that. We have a whole course on evidence in the Self Advocacy School. And when I work with organizations, we dive deep into how to turn facts into evidence and how to collect evidence and how to create evidence so that your belief is reasoned. You can reason it out with other people. You have reasons that you can elucidate and you can explain to the people around you. So that is the R of the cure for complacency. We've got contagious belief, an apologetic belief, reasoned belief, and then the E is empathetic belief. And this is really where, especially for you leaders, you've got to focus. Because if you believe you coming from the position of a leader is very different than you coming from the position of those people that you lead. And you have to see the belief, what you're asking people to do, the outcomes, the risks, the emotion, the time, the money, all of it from the other's perspective. It has to be empathetic. And the type of empathy we're talking about here is cognitive empathy. You want to see it from their perspective. How do they see this belief? What's it going to do for them? How is it going to impact their lives? What can they do to actually make something happen? And so it is really important, super important, that you are able to step into other people's perspectives when we're talking about empathetic belief, because people are going to remain complacent, comfortable, not take any risks until they see that stepping into that risk is actually worth it for them, not for you as the leader, but for them in their lives, in their work, in their future, in their self-actualization. And so that's really important when we're talking about motivating and leading others. So let's just review this one more time. We've got the C, which is contagious belief, the U, which is unapologetic belief. I hope you can't hear my dog barking in the background. The R, which is reasoned belief, and the E, which is empathetic belief. And now I want to dive into an example. And the first example I'm going to give you about a time that I was complacent and what sort of drove me out of that complacency and how my belief allowed me to completely self-actualize in a certain area of my life. And then I want to share a situation when I was a partner at my law firm and leading the people there and someone else who was able to step out of complacency and into belief. So let's start with me. I was 100 pounds overweight when I graduated high school, and I was complacent. I was comfortable. I had a lot of friends. I had been the homecoming queen. I was completely fine in my life, felt everything was great. Everything was very comfortable. And then I went to college and I made a lot of friends and I was having a good time. And I went to college in DC at American, and we went out to a bar one night. And I'm trying to think, I was a freshman, so I'm not sure how I got into the bar, but we'll leave that for another conversation. But the bouncer, maybe this is how, the bouncer at the bar was a guy who we went to school with, and he was very handsome, and I had a little crush on him. And when we were waiting to get in line, I heard him say to the other bouncer, I know she's heavy, something to this effect. I know she's heavy, but we have to let her in anyway. And that drew me out of complacency very, very quickly. It made me so uncomfortable that I had to believe something new. I no longer believed that it was good enough to be comfortable. I no longer believed it was worth it to be comfortable. I suddenly needed to believe something different. And I believed that it was worth it for me to try to explore ways that I could start to lose that weight. And so I started to work on that belief. And the more that I worked on it, the more contagious it became. And the more unapologetic I became. I was unapologetic about the fact that I didn't drink most nights because drinking would not lead me to the result that I wanted, which was to lose weight. I was unapologetic in that when I went to the cafeteria with everyone else, I was very specific about what I would eat and what I wouldn't eat. I was completely unapologetic about my workouts and the amount of water that I drank. And I was unapologetic because I was in full belief that I had to explore whether losing weight was possible for me. And then I was reasoned in it. It might have been an unreasonable idea, an outrageous idea that I could lose 100 pounds, but I was reasoned in it. I collected and created evidence. I collected evidence that other people had lost 100 pounds, but I also created evidence that I could lose first 10, then 20, then 30 pounds, and so on and so on. And I was empathetic with myself. I had my own back. I saw that this was going to be difficult, but I knew how to be contagious in my belief to myself so that I could remind myself that the discomfort of not eating the foods that I liked, the discomfort of working out when other people were sleeping in, the discomfort of not drinking when everyone else was doing keg stands, that was going to be worth it. And over time, my belief grew. It became more contagious, more unapologetic, more reasoned, and more empathetic. And as we've talked about before, I lost that weight. You can do this with yourself. You want your belief to be contagious to yourself. You want to be unapologetic about it. Don't be apologizing to yourself that you believe something. Don't second guess yourself or ride the fence with yourself, of all people. Be reasoned. Collect and create your evidence to make you more unapologetic and more contagious. And then be empathetic. Recognize that you are going to feel certain ways. And there are parts of your brain that are going to see this as dangerous. Discomfort is dangerous to your brain. So have a little bit of compassion with yourself. So that is the sort of personal way that you can cure your complacency. But let's talk about this in the workplace. So as a partner at the law firm, especially when I was a younger partner, one of my jobs was to do the hiring and the firing. I was a managing partner before we were called managing partners. And I was a leader at the firm. And I was a young partner and I would bring people in. And a lot of people, especially women, would approach me. I taught at the Villanova Law School. I would do a lot of speeches for continuing legal education. And people would approach me after and say, would you mentor me? Would you guide me? Would you help me? And one of the women that I mentored ultimately came to work at the firm. And she started working and she easily slipped into comfort. And she was making a good living, nothing outrageous. On the defense side, we didn't make huge numbers like you would on the plaintiff side. Defense attorneys are paid by the hour by insurance companies. So those rates aren't always what they could be in other areas of law. So she was making a comfortable living and she was very comfortable. But I saw that she was becoming complacent. And more importantly, I believed that she could be a phenomenal trial attorney and that really the world was her oyster for what she could do as a trial attorney. And so I wanted to cure her complacency. So I went to her with my belief and I was unapologetic about it. I said to her, and let's call her Susan, Susan, you have talent. You have drive. You have me as a mentor. You have all kinds of opportunities. You can be doing so much more. You could be a very young partner. You could be very young and trying your first case. You could be going through the process so much faster, so much more successfully, achieving so many more milestones. I have no doubt about this, that it is a potential for you. And I am unapologetic about wanting that for you. I want more than you currently seem to want for yourself. And I was so sure and invested in her that it was contagious. So now my belief was contagious and unapologetic, and it was reasoned. I showed her all of the things that she had done well, all of the ways in which she was thriving and made for this role, and really came up with ideas for cross examinations or ideas for depositions or strategies of the case that were beyond her years and beyond some of her colleagues who were doing similar work. And so the more that I gave her my reasoned belief, the more it supported her contagious belief and her unapologetic belief. And I also saw it with empathy. I saw that it was enormously scary to step into the idea that you would be trying cases. Trying cases is your butt is on the line. You are the one in front of the jury. You are the one who's making the argument. It's no longer your lead, which is, what she was sort of depending on, who was taking all of that on. But I also explained to her that I would always be there to support her, that we would share the trial duties for a while until she felt comfortable. I saw from her perspective that she felt as though her colleagues in her class might think she was too big for her britches if she went outside of her complacency, and how hard that might be. And we talked that through and I coached her on it. And I renewed my sense of contagious and unapologetic and reasoned belief that ultimately this was going to be the best possible thing for her. And over time, she stepped into that belief as well. And she started to become more and more engaged and then ultimately invested. And she was putting her emotion into her job. She was putting her time, her resources, her money. She was going to get more education. She was doing all kinds of legal things. She was coming to my trials to learn from me, even if she couldn't bill the hours. She was truly investing, going beyond engagement and investing in herself and in the firm. Because the better she got, the better the firm got. The clients loved her. They saw her as a huge, important part of the team. And all of us rose thanks to her investment in herself and the way that she invested her time and her emotion and her resources. And ultimately, just this weekend, I got a text from her. She had moved away. She got a job at another firm, and I hadn't heard from her from a very long time, which is completely fine. Everyone is very busy. But she messaged me and said, "Hi, Heather, this is Susan. I just finished my first jury trial in first chair in federal court." So not only was she trying cases in state court, which is a little bit less of a high stakes, but now she had tried her first trial as the first chair, the person who had all of the decisions. Ultimately, the buck stopped with her in federal court. And she said, exhaustion just hit, so I'm hiding in a conference room while the jury does its thing. I thought I'd say hi and thank you for helping me as a student and young associate and setting me on my path. Thank you for your belief in me. This is where I'm supposed to be. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It makes me want to cry. That is the cure for complacency. Susan had so much potential, and I saw it so clearly that I needed to help her to see it. And I needed my belief to be so strong that she could lean on mine until she had her own. And that meant it had to be contagious, unapologetic, reasoned, and empathetic. Who is depending on you for your belief? It might be you. I had to depend on myself. There was a part of me that believed that Zeke would never say something like that about me again, that I had the potential to actualize, to actually become a person who could lose 100 pounds. Some part of me believed that, and I had to lean on that belief until it grew. And then for others, especially you leaders out there and salespeople and doctors, all of you, people are leaning on your belief all the time. If you want the people around you to grow and thrive and step out of complacency, try this cure. The cure is belief. It's contagious. It is unapologetic. It is reasoned, but not reasonable. And it is empathetic. I would love to hear what you think about this, whether you feel as though complacency is something that is dragging you down, whether you're comfortable being complacent and this doesn't resonate with you at all. I would love to hear it all. You can email me, heather@advocatetowin.com. I also would love it if you want to do this work for yourself or your team. You can join us in the Self Advocacy School. The doors are closing at the end of February. We're going to be doing some work internally to the school. When we reopen the doors, it is going to be at a higher price point and with fewer extras that the founding members get. So if this is the least bit interesting to you, it is a very low price point on purpose. I want as many people as possible to learn these tools and make an impact on others' lives the way that I made an impact on Susan's life by believing in her and knowing how to build her belief. An advocate knows how to build belief. You are an advocate and you just never learned the tools to get good at it. That's what we do in the Self Advocacy School. That is what we do here. I hope that you take this cure for complacency, apply it to yourself and to the people in your life. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend and I hope that you take good care. I will talk to you next week.